Nick before? Do you all know each other?
No.
No.
Hello,
Nick,
Nick.
this is Natalia Trevino. Natalia, this is Nick Carbo.
Hi.
It's
Nice
very
to
nice
meet
to meet you, all of you.
And there's Octavio
All of
Quintanilla
you.
as well. Octavio Quintanilla just came in. So I think Octavio and Natalia know each other. I don't know if Nick, if you've met Octavio yet or not.
Not yet.
Hey, Octavio, do you want to try to share your screen?
I would like to welcome everyone to the image word image panel. And we are going to be speaking with four fantastic writers and artists today regarding texts that cross over from one particular field to another in some way, shape, or form. They don't completely live within one field. So I'd like to welcome you all to our panel. Thank you very much for coming and spending some time with us. Give me just a second here. And I'd like to introduce everybody with a little bit of a blurb that I pulled together. So this particular panel came together for me, at any rate, as a reader, writer, and researcher, because I'm fascinated by work that combines strategies or materials to create something that resists the general assumptions about a field of aesthetic activity. And today I am delighted to have the opportunity to listen to four innovative and fabulous artists of the word whose work in four different ways resists the standard expectations of what poetry can be. We will be hearing from Natalia Trevino, Andrea Hempstead, Octavio Quintanilla, and Nick Carbo. We will start off with Natalia Trevino, who was born in Mexico City and grew up in Texas, learning Spanish from her mother and English from Bert and Ernie. Natalia holds an MA from the University of Texas, San Antonio, and an MFA in creative writing from the University of Nebraska. Currently, she's an English professor at Northwest Vista College. She has won many awards, including the 2004 Alfredo Cisneros del Moral Award, the 2008 Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Poetry Prize, and the 2012 Literary Award from the Artist Foundation of San Antonio. Her books include Lavando la Dirty Laundry and Virgin X. For this panel, I was particularly impressed with the role of the image of multiple Virgin Marys in Virgin X, not just as points for ekphrastic development, but as locations where multiple lines of identity and culture intersect. Please welcome Natalia Trevino.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful to be here. And I know that spending your day on Zoom and sitting is hard. So I'm grateful for your time and listening. I'll just start with a little story about what began this work. I've always been fascinated by and attracted to mysticism in the arts, from the Renaissance period, the medieval period, and beyond. And in that rapture or rapturous moment that those artists created, and what moment they must have been when the inspiration came. And one day when I really thought I wasn't going to be writing much poetry at all, because I was working on prose, I was scrolling through Facebook and I came across my friend Belinda Acosta's post, and it was this piece here. Let me show you. That completely changed my life. Actually, it was this piece here by J. Michael Walker, a Los Angeles painter, photographer, artist. This painting, I thought it was a painting, actually it's a pencil drawing, made my heart stop. It made me sob inexplicably. I had such a strong visceral response to this that the only way to handle it was through the body, and that was through poetry. I knew that the piece reminded me of my abuelita, Maria de Socorro, who I had not grieved properly at all. I was procrastinating my grief for her because we've always lived in two countries, her in Mexico and me in the US, separated by language, time, distance. But when we were together, and it was often, thank goodness, we were like best friends. She was my maid of honor when I got married. And she also lived like this woman in the painting. She slept on a tiny twin bed. She had a picture of Jesus right there in her bedroom. And she only wore dresses. My grandmother never put pants on in her whole life. And she, of course, had calendars like the one that you're seeing here in this image. Let me make it larger for you. In her home. And something about the combination of the position, of seeing her sewing, just the two women sort of melded together in my imagination. My abuelita is my personal queen. But the way this image worked on me was by deepening that concept and elevating it, by placing the Holy Queen, who I did not have much to do with before this, in this humble and familiar posture, this Mexican context. Well, I think this painting taught me something much better than the church the church tried to teach. And that was that the people here are what's sacred. And they live inside of us in a metaphysical way, through genetics, through art, and through stories. So this moment and this giant question, me trying to understand the power of this piece, sent me on a search for my grandmother's knowledge and her connection to La Virgen. Why that Virgen, I asked her. She wasn't praying to La Virgen de Guadalupe depicted in this image. When I lived with her for a couple of times in my life, yes, she worshiped her, and like many women in Mexico, felt very connected to her and protected by her. But let me see if I can move my slide. So this is La Virgen de Guadalupe, who most of Mexico reveres, but not only her. My grandmother loved to see the Matachines dance in honor of this virgin, to celebrate her visits to Juan Diego, her request for a shrine, her rose in the snow miracle, and her appearance on his tunic to convince the bishops that she was really sending these messages in the winter of 1531. But my abuelita was praying to a different Virgen when she was in her biggest time of need later in her life. She was praying to La Virgen de San Juan de los Lagos, who is depicted here in tiles at her shrine in San Juan, Texas. As I learned about this Virgen, I became closer to my grandmother and to the sacred line of all women long after my grandmother's passing. And this sent me searching in other places for information about this Virgen so I can understand her and learn about her. And I found out that, of course, she's not just the mom of Jesus. She is the ancient goddess Coatlicue, who is why indigenous people accepted her and why La Virgen de Guadalupe united Mexico. She was the mother of all things, life, death, the earth, the stars. She stood on the moon. This is the daughter of Coatlicue, Coyolxauhqui. This is the Coyolxauhqui whose body was dismembered by the birth of the sun. She had stars on her dress who were also her children. And there were still many more similarities which made indigenous populations accept La Virgen de Guadalupe as their mother, as our mother. And so I am immersed in this study of her through literature and spirituality and the arts. And I'm going to read a couple of poems from my book, Virgen X, to acknowledge what I'm talking about and how, and so you can see what this work became. Yes. So let me find my little stop share. My mouse disappeared. So I'll leave that up. I'll start with Queen of Mexico. Don't think of her. Here we go. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'll just leave that up since this was the inspiration and the moment, the catalyst. Don't think of her as anything too special or far away. Think of her like a comadre who wants to pass the time playing loteria, wearing soft white tennis shoes on her tired feet, embroidering the bedspread a few afternoons a week. Think of her as your own abuela who can and does go for the capirotada, the cigarettes, the long button-down bata midsummer. This is the woman who, yes, gave birth to Jesus or 1,000 boys named Jesus. This is the woman who disregards the borders, not just the big river or el mero mero mar between those original conquerors and this patria here, but los puentes between the living and not living, between the deities, their children, and todos nosotros batallando down here. She appears to the people en el cielo, en las nubes, in the rocks, on los panqueques, at the hillside of Tepeyac in the middle of dead winter. Unafraid of desert snakes or sting of nopales, emissary of that our Father, his, their Son. She doesn't mean to make us question their power by popping in and answering prayers like nobody's business, but she wants to make a point. She'll wear a necklace of skulls to do it, a belt made of snakes when it was the thing to do, come in a dress made of stars she gave birth to, and the moon too, to wake us up to ourselves, wear a crown made of twigs and a blue ball that looks just like earth so people could get it once and for all. Doesn't stop crying though, all heart. Asking, never telling us to rethink it all, to have the courage to take a rose or two, to eat a peach or two, and obey, please, our mother. So again, I'm studying this Virgen. I didn't know anything about her when I began, except what very, very little I learned as a child. And I became quite interested in this Virgen, especially because it brought me close to my grandmother. This is Between Wings. Your arms stretch under the blue garment, not feathered, not under Guadalupe's drapery of sky, nor below the hot blanket of holy breath. Your stiff garment forms a pair of wings from the apex of your neck. Only your clothing reveals it is you. Thin, a spine, a column under that dress. The carver left your eyes open, floated Earth's effigy inside your crown to remind us of this weight on your head. It was a retired school teacher who flew the body of an airplane into your shrine that morning, announced he wanted to kill Catholics, Methodists, and Mexicans, crashed between the shrine and the school, between children having lunch and supplicants at prayer. This exploding fuselage lodged in the beam, in the silent spine of your winged building, did not kill a single person on the ground. And that is one of the stories my grandmother would have known in her lifetime. And the church was rebuilt to what you're seeing on the screen here now. And I'll read one more if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I'm just finding out, sorry. This is Migrating La Virgen. O Lady of San Juan de los Lagos, your eyes do not look down at us half shut. It is your dream, the whole earth you carry above your head, where we do not fight for land and we do not cross one another or jagged borders with our own travel-sized miracles. Miracle of a bottle of water, miracle of a photograph tucked under a bra, miracle of a sandwich shared, made 3 million times, hundreds of miles away. You want us to swim in the one ocean, El Mar, Maria, your populated body, great Mother Earth, as the dream, as the dreamer. I've crossed the Rio Grande 300 times or more with my green card, then my blue card, while other children crawled across pale deserts, hid under helicopters, bridged the two lands in question with their water bottles and their work and bones. Madre de Misericordia, mother of misery, of mercy. The difference between these children and me was the color of our papers. We have papers, my father always said, papers, screaming, though I'd ask once if he could tell my mom to please dry my back better after my shower so the kids would stop saying it, because somehow my back stayed wet all day long. You have the same name as my grandmother's, Maria de Socorro, Mother of Mercy. I am still learning the difference between the prayer and the one who prays. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalia.
Yeah, thank
Gracias.
you.
Okay, and this is a beautiful book too. The edition is amazing. So if you all get a chance, pick up her book while it's still in print. Okay, we're going to see some work from Andrea Hempstead. Andrea Hempstead works with bold color, pattern, and precise composition in mediums such as pop-up books, movables, and augmented reality. Andrea holds an MBA from Le Moyne College and an MFA in graphic design from Marywood University. Currently, she is a graphic design professor at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. She has published the book Stickly, Prickly, and Slow Solid, a pop-up adventure, a finalist for the Megan Dorfer Prize for Artist Books. For this panel, I was fascinated by her consideration of typography as a vehicle for emotional expression and by the use of design and design spaces in combination with literary language to produce words that do not sit still on the page, but rather pop up and move about or challenge the reader to move about. Please welcome Andrea Hempstead.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here today. So a little, Josh alluded to my background. I'm a graphic designer. I've always enjoyed the written word. I've always loved writing. The writing that I'm going to share with you today sort of came about during a COVID isolation, which has proved to be, I guess, creatively inspiring for some people and stifling for others. This kind of led to a new avenue for me to explore this realm of creativity. I have written haikus in the past more as like a fun sort of game between my husband and I. We would just come up with haikus back and forth. And when we went into isolation, I just kind of felt like pulling in on myself more and more. And as a nice segue, Natalia, a lot of my work really represents motherhood. So there's a connection there between us with this panel. So today I'm going to be sharing my posters that I created based off of the haikus that I wrote representing feelings of anxiety and depression and surrounding motherhood, isolation, and loss. So I will share my screen with you so you can see the visualization of them, and then I will read them and kind of explain my connection to that. Sorry about that. Okay, so this first poster on the left here, this says, isolation, doubt, pain, anger, joy, streaming tears, good enough mother. And so this is surrounding the feelings I have when I'm overwhelmed by all of the roles and responsibilities that I have in addition to being a mother, that often take away from the joy of being a mother and add to the guilt of kind of always being pulled one way or another in lots of different directions and not ever feeling like I am giving my 100% attention to any one thing at any one time. So that's where this phrase of good enough comes from. So I always feel like I'm kind of just doing good enough in all of the areas of my life. So this kind of harkens to that with those feelings. Also, being a mom, you're a lot of times you're feeling isolated and feeling like, you know, the world is kind of coming at you in all sorts of directions. So that's sort of where this came from, and just like a really subtle hint of the motherhood imagery in the background, but also like the curves of lovely motherhood, but also kind of the jagged edges of it, kind of all in one. So this next poster and haiku are talking about motherhood again, but in relation to time. And I think that we're always wanting to, I don't know, move time forward in some sense, and then also kind of hold on to it in another way. And this kind of talks a little bit about that duality of our relationship with time and the time that we have, but also the time that we don't have for ourselves, but also for our children, how they're taking it away from us, but then also like we want that time back in other places. So here's this one. Grab a slice of time, a nibble before it's gone, squandered memories. And so this is really just talking about how, you know, we squander that time we have with our children, and they grow so fast. And yet also we squander the time that we have for ourselves at the same time. So it's a little bit of a balance, but also kind of a fighting against ourselves with that one. This one is about the loss of my mother, and that relationship, and how times now where I really need her the most, I don't have her anymore. So I'll read this one. Here without presence, mind and body separate, so much to forget. So here I'm talking about how I'm here sometimes, but other times I'm not. I'm thinking about her and the influence that she has on me as a mother and in my life in general, and how she's always here with me, but she's not. And also kind of just thinking about that separation of mind and body, and how no matter if the body is present or not, there's still that existence of a person even after they're gone. And so the line "so much to forget" is really talking about my memories of her and how they are fading as the years go by. But also you try to forget daily that they're not there with you. So those are the three haikus that I wanted to share with you. In addition to the printed posters, what I wanted to do was kind of build an experiential situation with these posters and these poems and these haikus by experimenting with augmented reality. So this is sort of a new foray for me. I've been interested in it for a while now. With the creation of my pop-up books, I've always wanted to try to do some sort of reality experience beyond the physical, and thinking about the space that you're in and how the spaces influence how you experience things as well. I have gone into the augmented reality world a little bit here. So I will share with you I did a screenshot of it. The resolution did not come out great. You can take a photo of your your augmented reality in the space. I mean, you can see it's rather large. This is the background. You can kind of see the background through here. But I also sort of made a little video of myself kind of walking around through the experience. So I'll kind of show you that. My intention is to eventually create all of these haikus into these augmented reality experiences. I like to make them animated and maybe interactive in some sense also, like as somebody walks in the space, there's some sort of an interactive element. But I haven't gotten to that phase yet of my learning. But this is like my first foray into the AR world. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that now so you guys can see that. So this is just walking into the space, and you can start to see the layers and the dimension of the space. And I just wanted to kind of focus on the first thing that you come upon is the first words, this feeling of isolation and doubt, and how the jagged triangles are above your head in the space, and how they kind of get you to feel that tension and those feelings of isolation. And then as you move into the space, you kind of walk towards the back message, that message of good enough mother is always present. And so as you walk into the space, you're trying to get to that space, and then at the same time, you're trapped. So the arch above you is sort of like a tunnel into motherhood. And then it's also, you can never actually go beyond that back wall if you're kind of trapped in that space of being good enough. And what does that mean? I'm going to stop that because I think it was really making the video lag. Hopefully you heard all of that. But that's my work, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing.
All right, thank you so much, Andrea. That was very cool, very interesting. Fantastic. I made a comment in the chat. It's so cool just to be able to actually literally walk around inside a poem like that. The next person we're going to hear from is Octavio Quintanilla. Octavio Quintanilla is the author of the poetry collection If I Go Missing, and served as the 2018 to 2020 Poet Laureate of San Antonio, Texas. Octavio holds a PhD from the University of North Texas. Currently, he is a professor in the MFA program at Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio, Texas. His work appears in numerous journals, and his visual poems have been exhibited in galleries such as Presa House Gallery, Equinox Gallery, and the Gallery of the Southwest School of Art. For this panel, I was delighted and moved by his visual poems, particularly the frontextos, which is frontera and texto portmanteaued, and the series of Los Días Oscuros, where Octavio avails himself of a wide variety of artistic and textual techniques to convey a visually lyrical experience. Not only do these visual poems set up tensions between language and image, they also create resistance and connection across linguistic boundaries through the use of Spanish as a representative language, contrasted by a minor use of English or its complete absence. Please welcome Octavio Quintanilla.
Thank you. You can hear me, right, Joshua? Okay. Thank you, Joshua. And thank you, Natalia and Andrea, for being in this panel. I really enjoy your work. And I had not seen Andrea's work, and I'm happy I did. I'm going to show you, I have a PowerPoint with a number of frontextos, and I decided to focus on frontextos on drawings, and frontextos that are mostly created with lines. And I guess the focus of my little talk here, and I'm going to read something because I'm realizing that I think I make a lot more sense when I actually write something down. And as I show you the frontextos, I'll be reading and giving you context about it. but I think the focus would be the line and how the line, not just the the drawn line moves on the page, but also the written line, the poetic line, and how they come together, and also how I try to, in my own way. I mean, I'm already contained on the page, I'm already caged on the page, so I guess within it I try to just break out of it and create different ways of reading the poem. I mean, visually, if you never encounter a visual poem before, for many of us, it's almost like learning to read again, learning to see and to make meaning. So as I read what I have, I guess I want you to think about that. And I think those are questions that I can talk about more once we break into conversation. So I have about 10 minutes. So I'll try to. So here's my presentation. I have always written with images. I tend to think with images, with metaphors and similes. And maybe this way of thinking has to do with my interest in lines. As a kid in Mexico, when men would meet in a field to talk, I would often see one of them, often my father, pick up a stick and doodle on the ground. I don't remember how much of what he drew on the ground was figurative, but I do remember him making lines. Just lines on the ground with a stick. Maybe as a way to emphasize what he was saying, or maybe as something else. I haven't reread The Grapes of Wrath for some time now, but at one point in the novel, I think Steinbeck gives us a short description of men standing around without work, drawing lines on the ground with sticks. What is it about the poetic line, written, drawn on the earth? What is it that we find compelling? What is it about the poetic line written or drawn on the page with ink? About the poetic line written or drawn in the sky? Here, I am thinking about my father. I am thinking about Steinbeck's characters. I'm thinking about Raúl Zurita. And I'm thinking about my own story I shape with lines. And so I am here doing on the page what my father did on the earth. Drawing lines. And out of these lines, I'm drawing out a visual poem. That's it.
Octavio, did you want to share your screen? We didn't see the visuals.
You didn't?
No, sorry.
Oh shit! Really, dude? You should have stopped me.
It was beautiful. I didn't want
Sounded
to.
so good. I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
It was so
well,
good.
I can do that, and I'll just show them to you because, yeah,
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt because it
it's
sounded so good, but
yeah. That was good. No, you need to because the text and the images went together, but that's
Okay,
fine.
I'm sorry.
But basically,
I apologize.
it's all right, man. But basically, I was reading and I was just showing you just different examples of how I've been creating lines on the page, okay, and how those start and how they, how they get more complicated with time and with practice, and all and everything else that I said to contextualize has to do with or is connected to the images. This idea of teaching yourself to see again, to make connections, to basically write your own poem as you've seen the images here, and to kind of train the eye to focus, and to also make the viewer to make connections between her personal and historical history. So yeah, I guess you can see the video later and put the essay and the images together.
Well, I think it works very well. This is the interesting thing about multidisciplinary works. They work really well when you take them apart and look at one
Yeah,
individual.
absolutely. Yeah,
So,
I agree with you. So that's my presentation, and when we get to talk, I'll be happy to answer questions or elaborate on anything I said.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Octavio. It was fantastic both ways. It was fantastic in its parts, and we look forward to someday also seeing it all together as well. That would be nice too. Sorry, I didn't catch that soon. I didn't realize that was what was going on, but those are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful frontextos. We're gonna hear next from Nick Carbo. Nick Carbo is the author of 4 books of poetry: Chinese, Japanese, What Are These? Published in 2009, Andalusian Dawn, published in 2004, Secret Asian Man, published in 2000, and El Grupo McDonald's, published in 1995. He has been awarded the Reader's Choice Prize from the Asian American Writers Workshop and fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and the New York Foundation for the Arts. His poems have appeared in Poetry, Plowshares, Indiana Review, Poet Lore, and Western Humanities Review, among others. For this panel, I was enthralled by his exploration of a heterogeneous cultural identity through image and the way those images, both in reality but significantly in popular culture, created fluid or multiple points of reference for a single individual. He has worked in widely varying formats, from visual poems created on canvas with paint, to working with video to create mesmerizing lyrical experiences. Please welcome Nick Carbo. Nick, you are muted right now. Sorry.
Is that better?
That works.
That works. Okay. So you have a film. So you can, it's 15 minutes, 51 seconds, but you can only, you only need to play about 10 minutes of it. So what it has, okay, it says, it's influenced by Stan Brakhage, the lyric thing. Also, another influence is Maya Deren. It has the soundtrack of Maya Deren. talking about vertical and horizontal poetry and film. Yes, I have that in mind. Also have in mind about reading, the act of reading itself, what you can and cannot read, and a segue with the front text. Those are the poetic line. There's lines going all over the place. So here, uh, please turn it on.
Okay, I'm pulling that up right
Oh.
now.
Mhm.
All right, is that up now?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to commence the visual poem.
Mhm.
Centuries, and it's been very difficult to pin down. But the reason I'm going into it is not because I think distinctions are important as formula and as rigidities, but I think they're important in the sense that they give an audience or a potential audience approach to what they're going to see. In the sense that if they are thinking that they're going to see an adventure film, for example, and they're confronted with a poetic film, that's going to go very well. I don't think that one's always predisposed towards poetry, and the whole notion of distinguishing things them for giving frame of mind which you bring to it. In other words, what are you going to be watching as this unfolds? What are you going to be listening for? If you're watching for what happens, you might have been at the point of some of the retardations because they're concerned with how it happens. Now, my mind consists not in its characteristics or rhyme or any of the other qualities which we associate as being characteristic of poetry. Poetry, to my mind, is an approach to experience in the sense that a poet is looking not just looking at. It comes out differently because they're looking at it and they're concerned with different elements in it. Now, the characteristics of poetry, such as rhyme or color or any of those emotional qualities which we attach to poetic work, they also may be present in works which are not poetry, and this one shows us. The distinction of poetry is its construction, is what I mean by poetic structure. The poetic construct arises from the fact, if you will, that it is a practical investigation of the situation. The ramifications of poetry is concerned with its qualities and its depth, so that you have poetry concerned in a sense not with what is occurring, but with what it feels like or what it means. A poem, to my mind, reads visible or auditory or something that is invisible, which is the feeling or the emotion or the metaphysical content of a moment. Now, it also may include action, but its attack is what I call vertical attack. And this may be a little bit clearer if you contrast it to what I would call the horizontal attack of a drama, which is concerned with the development from situation to situation. Whereas a poem is concerned with the development, let's say, within a very small situation, from feeling to feeling. Now, where if you take a Shakespearean word which combines the two movements, in Shakespeare you have drama moving forward on a horizontal development of one circumstance, one action, and so on, leading to another. And this delineates character. Every once in a while, however, he arrives at a point of action where he wants to eliminate the meaning of this moment in the drama. And at that moment, he builds a pyramid or investigates it vertically, if you will, so that you have a horizontal development with periodic vertical investigations, which are poems, which are monologues. Now, if you consider it this way, then you can think of any kind of combination being possible. You have operas, which are in which the horizontal development is virtually unimportant. The plots are very silly, but they serve as an excuse for stringing a number of arias, which are essentially lyric statements. Theater are in singing, comparable to the lyric poem. And you can see that all sorts of combinations would be possible. Now, it seems to me that in many films, very often in the opening passages, and when it does that, cinematically, that section is quite different from the rest of the film. You know, establishing New York, you get a montage of images, and that is, as it were, a poetic construct. After which, what follows is a dramatic construct, which is essentially horizontal in its development. The same thing would apply to the dream sequences. They occur at moments when the intensification is carried out not by action, but by the illumination of that moment. Now, the short films, to my mind, and they are short because it is difficult to maintain such intensity for a long period of time, are comparable to lyric poems, and they are completely a vertical, or what I would call a poetic construct, and they are complete as such. One of the combinations that would be possible
Stop it there if you want.
in a film, the dramatic construct, visually, which is accompanied by a commentary, which is essentially poetic. That is, it illuminates the moments
Yeah.
developing, and each one of them is illuminated. It's things of this sort that I believe appear in Mr. Moss's work, who has, I think, done that to a certain extent in the last film, Image in the Snow, where the development of the film is very largely horizontal. That is, there is a storyline, and this is illuminated constantly by the poetic commentary, so that you
Yeah, sound drops are just the computer's fault. Ah, ah. Hmm. We can stop.
If you don't mind, Nick, we could go ahead and just watch the rest of it. I think we've got time.
Sure. Okay. It's repetitive.
place. I'm horizontal and vertical. Flight of stairs. But that always seemed to me the poetry and the words. And when those moments came, well, I have to go a step beyond those for films now to the non-silent films. In the best of those moments, the words seemed to fit. They really were the right word, even the right word might maybe have been a grunt. And I'm not at all sure how I'm not sure that anywhere I want such a thing as myself as a poetic film. I think films as they are, if they never better. In a film at all. When I'm recharging an almost empty mind, almost empty battery, perhaps Mr. Miller would say something.
The sound was supposed to cut out at the end there, like that. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it was EDM, electronic music, dance music.
I'll go ahead and stop the share and bring everybody back. I was notified that I'm trying to mute myself so that you couldn't hear me, but that inadvertently muted the sound on the video, I think. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was, yeah, thank you so much. That was fantastic. And at this point, we have a few minutes to open up the discussion, either amongst the panelists or if there are questions also that could be fielded, that's a possibility as well. I'd like to say that just because it's the most recent thing that I'm thinking about, most recent thing I saw, so it's what I'm thinking about. One of the things I liked about Nick Carbo's visual poem is how it slowly scooted from one set of letters to another, breaking up the words and things so that you really had to suspend your ability to clamp onto a signification of some sort until you got a little further along. So it was a very interesting reading experience.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like floating signifiers that went along the.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that, and I think that's something that connects a lot of this work. For instance, with Octavio Quintanilla, Quintanilla's frontextos, you have a tension between the words that are used on the page when they appear and the kind of the sketchiness of some of the frontextos. They kind of complete each other, but you have to string your understanding or string your ability to pull out meaning between the words and the images or the sketches. I'm thinking particularly of what we saw today. And then with Andrea Hempstead's, of course, you're walking around the individual words and you see everything at once, but being able to use the AR experience, you actually walk around in between some of the words and stuff. And so you're really focusing on the existence of those words in a different way, in that way. But with Natalia's work, the ekphrasis there is something that's working in a little bit of a different way, but it creates this feeling of there's this the text which stands on its own, but there's this other something else outside of the text. In this case, images or the specific representations of the Virgin Maria, which are very important. It's not just, I've got a plastic one I brought from Mexico City sitting over here, and that's a very highly manufactured one, but these are very specific ones. So that kind of absence in the text creates part of the meaning and part of the effect of the text for the reader as well. So I found that interesting across all four of them. If anybody's got any other questions, there was a question up here for Nick from Tina Lentz McMillan, wanting to know what the influences are for some of this, it being so outside of hers and a lot of ours, our ability to imagine something like this. So she was curious about some of the influences there.
Oh, probably if you've heard of the experimental filmmakers, Michael Snow, who did film called Wavelengths. It was just a big zoom in, and that was it. And or another, I think the structuralist filmmakers of America. That's one of the big influences. I'd say that also Hollis Frampton's Lemon. That was just a film of a lemon and lighting around it. It was amazing films, and it brought you to the essence of what the materiality of the stuff you're working with. So, and also with Stan Brakhage, his direct painting of the film itself. With that's what I did with the. I had bought found footage, 8mm film, and then I scratched it and I painted it and did all this stuff. And the one that goes this way horizontally is film strips from your high school or elementary school. Remember those film strips? You move and beep, beep, beep. Okay, what I did is I just turned it upside down, I mean, horizontally, and then made it go that way. And that's the way I got the line of the poem into the image. And does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fascinating. Absolutely, it's fascinating. I think Michelle has her hand up. Michelle.
Yeah, I had a question for Octavio. Do you find that your lines or your mark making comes out as you're writing your poem, or is this something after as you're reading your poem to yourself?
I start with lately, let me give you an example. Lately, I have this around all the time, paper, and I just start marking, see where it takes me. Sometimes I do go about it more intentionally. I have an idea or something, I'm responding to something specifically or something I want to express. But other than that, I don't know why, but it's brings me a lot of joy just to mark. The essay the short essay that I just read, I wrote it here, and this will become a frontexto. You see, so and obviously I can add more figures or whatever, but when it comes to the recent work that I'm doing now, honestly, I'm not even thinking about language. I'm thinking about, like you said, making marks and mark making and just trying to articulate that connection of why I love doing this. And I think that image of my father, seeing him when I was like 5, I don't know, drawing on the ground. It's like, you know, what I'm thinking about, what is that relationship? You know, how does that, has that informed me? So yeah.
Thank
I
you.
hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
We have a question for Andrea from Tina Lentz. She asks, in this augmented space, how do you see technology informing or fighting against your themes? How do you see this media in a broader sense for your work? So I think there's two questions. How does a technology inform or fight against the theme?
Yeah, so did I unmute myself? Yeah. um, I answered it in the chat, but I'll read it for everybody. So
Oh,
I
sorry.
think that no, it's okay. I think that technology is perceived as being like a cold medium, and my work that I presented here was talking about motherhood, which tends to feel like a warm meaning. But for this, I feel like the augmented reality portion of it, I really wanted to have the individual have the opportunity to have their own experience. And so I think that the AR kind of helps provide that framework for the word. And then the experience changes depending upon the individual experiences and sort of what associations they bring to the meaning of the words and into the space themselves. So in that way, it's a more interactive and experiential way of kind of expressing my words and my visuals, but also like allowing others to be invited into that and kind of combine their own and then create a third meaning with all of that. So I think that you can do that in many different ways. And AR is just another way to do that. I think technology is just a tool. So it's just another way of kind of having a different medium.
My question for you, Andrea, was that like a gamescape where you go into the game narrative of playing the video game, or is it a something you created out of just what was the software that you used?
Oh, I took the file from created the posters in Adobe Illustrator, and then I was able to take each layer into Photoshop and extrude them to create them into three-dimensional forms. And then I took the three-dimensional forms into Adobe Dimension, and then applied the materials textures on them and the extrusions. And then took that into Adobe Aero was the final AR experience software. So, I forgot to show the QR code. Crazy me. Okay, I'll send. I can send it to Joshua.
Send it to me, and then I can send it on to.
He has it. Yeah, and I also have the link. So if you wanted to experience it yourself, so it's intended to be viewed either on your cell phone or your tablet. It's a free application you can download, and then you can walk through the space through your device. Sorry, I didn't say that.
Andrea, I know you have to leave, but thank you so
Speaking
much.
of motherhood, I have to go pick up my son. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation.
Yes, thank you for
Nice
coming.
to meet you all.
Appreciate it. And I don't know if we have a couple more minutes or how are you guys feeling? Is this a good moment to wrap it up, or do we have room for one more question?
I have one more question. I have lots of questions because this is so fascinating to me because I'm like right here at the door of this intersection. Like I'm really interested in this type of work. So I have a question because we're all coming to this as like writers, quote unquote. So I'm wondering, like, in your work, like how much do you hold on to that? Like, especially since this is like really intersectional work, like how hard do you hold on to that identity of like writer of like the words must come first in this really like experimental work that is almost like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes you have to kind of let go, especially like in Nick Carbo's work and Octavio, which was just mentioning it, that you're kind of really leading with image. So I wonder about that. I don't know if that's really framed as a question.
Well, it sounds like you're asking a little bit of how much do they keep in mind the idea or the structure of writing while they're working into some of these works?
Yes.
I think it starts for me with it's really a physical impulse, and then you're an artist. However you are an artist, whether you embroider, whether you're a photographer, that impulse goes to that. What you have access to, whether it's a pencil, a line, a camera, a sewing machine. So it really, writer is, it's the tool that luckily is nearby to address that really visceral impulse inside. And so that identity is, to me, is second to the drive, to the kinetic energy inside, that where the stuff is happening.
Yeah, one of the things is intermedia. One of the buzzwords today is the mixture of media. So all that intermedia is getting thrown against the wall, and whatever sticks, better.
What about you, Octavio? How much do you keep the idea, the structure of writing itself as something in mind when you're approaching yours?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I've been thinking a lot about that, and I'm beginning to get rid of this traditional notion of what a writer is. I don't, like I said, lately, the words come last, and often in my contextos, words don't appear.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I still see it as text, as something that the viewer, the reader, is going to create out of that, a narrative, and that's why I was referencing this idea of with some of the type of work that all of us presented here. It's almost like, again, teaching yourself how to read again, how to interact with those images, and tapping into your own experience with language, with images, with with all those elements, with your own history, with that. But I mean, I don't even know. Like, I'm kind of like confused right now personally, because I'm like, am I a writer? Yes, I am. But lately it's like words. I mean, sometimes words don't contain what I want to express. So I keep trying to find new ways to express emotion, which is at the core of all of this, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. And that process, we talk a lot in a panel like this about the process of learning how to read, and sometimes just each and every individual visual poem is another. You have to engage in another process of learning how to read, because they all have their unique language, each and every one of the works almost. And that's part of. It seems like that's part of the aesthetic effect as well sometimes. Well, we are just out of time, and unfortunately, I could talk about all this for a long time. So we're going to have to wrap it up at some point. But hopefully, my hope is that this panel has given some people something to talk about further outside of the panel, kind of spark or initiate some thoughts down some roads that those thoughts might not have wandered down before. And to look into the world of visual poetry, because it's a really big world out there, despite not seeing it maybe as easily as more discursive poetry. But this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience, a fantastic panel. And I want to thank the panelists, Carbo, Natalia Trevino, Octavio Quintanilla. Thank you guys so much for coming together and having this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll see you later. Let's stay in touch.
Yes.
Good to see you, Octavio.
Hi, Robin.
I love
Hi,
those.
how's it
I
going?
love the drawings. Oh my God, those drawings.
Thank you. Yeah.
Really something.
Uh,
Really, that's your most recent work, the drawings?
yeah, I've been doing
Vision?
quite a few drawings, messing around with the line,
Yeah.
creating, figurative shapes.
I could stand and stare at that for a long time because I just was staring and I saw these images emerge,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's and that's the idea, right? To kind of you know, create, you know, put together all kinds of images that in themselves create other images, you know.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So thank you, Robin, for
yeah.
being here.
I thought it was
Appreciate
really wild. I thought all the different people's images and how they perceive with text and all was really amazing. I really loved yours, Octavio.
Thank you.
I thought Nick Carbo's film was just wild, incredible. You know, took it to a whole nother level. Andrea's and Natalia's as well were really amazing pieces.
Yeah.
We'll have to get that the QR code out to people somehow for
Yeah.
Andrea Hempstead.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Yeah.
So
That'd be
we're gonna I put into the chat the festival and also to the Survey Monkey if people have could fill that out. Each one is particular for each panel, and if you could do those, they're in the chat. But I'll give you a couple minutes to get that information, and then I'm going to shut this off in 4 minutes, okay? But it was great having you guys. What a heck of a panel there, Joshua. What a heck of a panel.
Yeah, Joshua, that was
incredible.
snap, Joshua. What
Yeah.
a fantastic panel. It's amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
See you later, all.
All right, you take care, Octavio. Hope to see you some more this weekend.
Yes, sir.
All right. Great to see you, Sarah.
Rosemary, it's good to see you. I saw you last night too. Victoria.